Hey, all, and welcome to, I guess, our very first video lecture for what we will discuss typically on Friday classes, where ever we're going to go over kind of a concept that doesn't quite warrant its own kind of class time or class period in and of itself, but it's something that you can put on in the background for like a good 5 or 10 minutes while you're doing other activities or playing a game or even watching something or reading something to kind of just get a better understanding of a core concept that I will probably utilize at least in the class or at least speak about in the class. And it would be nice for you all to kind of have just a basic understanding of what it is that I am talking about. And so today we are going to discuss Aristotle and the use of enthymeme. And so the enthymeme is a type of syllogism or a deduction in which one of the premises is usually left unstated. The classic example of what a syllogism is goes back to the one you see on the screen. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Ergo, Socrates is mortal. I'm not going to bore you on things such as heuristics or the understandings of persuasion, or even go back and make you read Aristotle's book 1 because I am not a sadist. And so we can take a couple practical example standpoints and use it to discuss a phenomena or something that is happening in the world is the intended goal for today, or at least for us to think critically about how we can use these concepts to describe the world in which that is happening around us. And so here is another example we can use. And we can go over to Reddit, for example, to see my proof. All right, so over here, what you will notice is I have way too much karma on Reddit, and we can come to use an enthymeme for that. So you could say something along the lines of Aaron has some Reddit karma. You can insert your premise here, and then Aaron has too much free time is the conclusion we can probably take away from that. What you can then put in is your own kind of second premise, which will lead to kind of the overarching conclusion. Why this is important is because it allows people to really build an infrastructure of an argument by themselves, which makes it more believable or more rational kind of on their end. It is also important from just a practical standpoint, because if we had to use language to discuss all of the minutiae or all of the tiny things that happen on a day-to-day basis, we would never be able to get a sentence across, because we would always need to be applying and adding in different context so that other individuals could understand what we are talking about in the first place. But the enthymeme is important for us to understand, and I will give you, or at least in the next like 3 minutes, try to show you an example as proof of the process. So let's look at GameStop. For those of you that have not been living under a rock, for the most part, you've probably heard of GameStop. You probably don't necessarily know all of the context to it. So I'm just going to give you a brief kind of lesson on it. Don't want to say, because there's a lot of pieces and components that go into the puzzle that is the phenomenon known as GameStop, and how we can use the enthymeme to explore kind of the potential for why it became such a huge success or a huge failure, or however you view it from your own personal standpoint. And so here is a short and pretty poor account from where it all derives from. We can see a user here, and I suppose I shall repeat his name, Deep Fucking Value. Yes, that is the foundational individual for where this is going to occur. On a subreddit called Wall Street Bets, which is just a subreddit that was traditionally used to post losses in the casino known as the stock market, or to make a bunch of self-loathing claims towards people's own kind of investment skills, as functionally just a set of memes that aren't supposed to be taken super seriously and super meaningful. Now, I'm not going to go into a large kind of discussion on what shorts are or investigations into the stock market, mainly because I am a communications person. Although if you do your research or investigation for this class, you can probably figure out a couple good research trends based in communication that will really help you if you are going to be an investor one day. Now, whenever we get into this world in which GameStop stock is just super rising, there is a bunch of potential reasons that individuals want to get into this conversation in the first place. And it leads us to the conclusion that GameStop was or is a good venture based upon where you're at kind of thinking about it, or where you put in that second premise to the conversation. So it could draw in a group of Marxists that want to come together and stick it to the man. It can draw in your day traders that are trying to turn short short-term profits. It was allowed, or at least spun, as a way for folks to get vengeance against profiteering, which has historically occurred in the stock market. Or it allowed folks to just jump in on the memes and just say, hey, they were part of an overarching cultural event. And so wherever you came to fill in that second premise, really kind of allowed solidarity, or at least group cohesion, to come together on the final conclusion, which allowed for a large chunk of individuals to get into the GameStop craze, or at least phenomena, in the first place. Now, with that said, potential problems emerge when we use the Enthymeme, and we can also explore and kind of identify and utilize them there. There is an assumption that when people come together, that Enthymeme tends to be true for each and every individual that are coming together for the overarching conversation. Mom, I will call you back right after this video. And so when we tend to make the assumption that everyone is in for the same person, whether it is your vendetta against the man, or whether it is your way to get as much cash in a short-term time frame as you possibly can, whenever you start to have larger conversations of why are you here in the first place, shows where rifts start to meet, and where individuals start to lose that kind of group cohesion or solidarity that they had in the first place. And so if we think about the Enthymeme, we can think about its potential power to draw people in, motivate, and utilize kind of our own persuasive tactics and habits to kind of get what we want from another group or another population. So when we think back to Aristotle, we don't have to think of that old stuffy dude who was functionally just writing about taxonomy all day. There is a purpose, or at least a method, that we can draw kind of our own conclusions from that can lead to big cultural understandings and cultural events that we might want to take a little bit seriously.